Give me the $35,000 that you just took from them, as a matter of fact. Hey y'all, welcome and/or welcome back to my channel. My name is Janae, if you didn't know, and today's video is another true crime episode. So if you're ready, let's go. All right, y'all, so today we jumping right into the case. And if you've been here for a little minute now, then you already know that we are going from the heel to the toes of America in alphabetical order. So from Alabama to Wyoming. And today we are in Nevada. And we're going to take it about 50 miles northeast of Las Vegas to a very, very small town called Overton. And I'm talking a town so small that if you blink, you might miss it. The most recent census has the population listed as 3,265 people. And back in 1967, when today's case takes place, the population was only roughly 1,500 people. So y'all already kind of know the vibes. This is the type of town where everybody knows everybody. Everybody feels safe. It's a comfortable, cozy, little close-knit town where nobody locks their doors. And they literally pretty much have no fear in the world that anything bad could ever happen in a place like this. So naturally, when August 29th, 1967 bops around, the residents of Overton were none the wiser that the rug was about to be ripped right from under their feet. So the day pretty much started as normal. All of the people are shopping at their local shops. They're going to go visit their friends, getting prescriptions from the drugstore, normal stuff. And one of the persons who was just bopping around living his life and minding his happy little business was Larry Staley. And Larry had just moved to Overton roughly 2 years prior to this because he was offered the management position at Bank of Las Vegas, the Overton branch, and that store opened on January 30th, 1965. And Larry had been there since opening day as the manager. So waking up and going to the bank was second nature for him. And once he get there, he greets the two tellers who are working with him that day. And they were 30-year-old Vera Walkington and 42-year-old Betty Heitman. And Vera and Betty were both moms. They both had two little girls. And I'm not 100% sure if Betty was married, but I know for a fact that Vera was married to a man who they called Bud. So they both just at work. It's business as usual. And like clockwork, roughly between 11 and 12, Larry heads out to go home for lunch. And when he made it home, I'm sure his wife Donna had a nice little lunch that she had prepared for him. And after he ate his lunch, he got to spend a little bit of time with his three kids, Sherry, Brett, and Garen, before he had to head back to work. But before he left the house, his son Brett made sure he gave him the biggest hug and kiss that a 4.5-year-old could give. Now, back at the bank, everything is fine. When Larry pull up, Betty and Vera are holding it down and everything is running smoothly as it should. And this was perfect because it meant that Larry wouldn't have to call in that third teller who he told to stay at home this particular day and to only come in if he needed her, like if he called her. But he didn't have to call her, so he was like, it was good. So the day goes how it goes, and at around 2:30, Betty and Vera start performing their pre-closing duties because the bank closed at 3 o'clock. So they pretty much getting ready to close up shop. But right before 3 o'clock, right before they closed the doors and locked them, a 23-year-old young man named Terry Conger walked in. But he wasn't there to make no deposits. He was there to take the deposit. He was there to rob the bank. And with his semi-automatic pistol in hand, he led Larry, Vera, and Betty all to the vault, where he ended up shooting them each one time in the head with 45 caliber bullets. And after he shot each of them, he stacked their bodies on top of one another, then fled the bank with $35,000, which today that would be roughly $336,000. So he made out with a pretty penny. Now, there wasn't much talked about on how the investigation went, like how they knew it was him, how they apprehended him, the whole search about it and everything like that. But what they did say was that there was over 100 sheriff's deputies from Southern Nevada who was out looking for Terry. They were literally everywhere. They was all over Overton and they was looking all across Muddy River Valley, and they was finally able to catch him near Warm Springs Ranch. And one source that I read said that he was captured 2 hours after the robbery and murders. And then there was another source that I read that said that he was captured 2 days after the robbery and murders. So whether it was 2 hours or 2 days, he got caught. And unsurprisingly, this was not Terry's first run-in with the law. So Terry Conger was born on January 3rd, 1944 in Mopa, Nevada, to his parents Edgar and Doris. And although his childhood wasn't really touched on, we know that he was one of 4 kids and that he graduated from Rancho High School. And after high school, instead of going into the workforce, he decided to enlist in the Army. But it's in the Army where he would end up running into some trouble, because while he was in Honolulu, he would start stealing government property. And apparently he wasn't really that good at it because he got caught. And just out of my own curiosity, I really want to know what type of stuff he was stealing. Well, like, was he stealing their notepads, their pens, their papers, or was he stealing like classified information and stuff like that? I don't know. It doesn't matter. And for his thievery, he would end up being sentenced to 6 years at the Federal Correctional Institute in Lompoc, California. However, despite being sentenced to 6 years bad time, he would end up being paroled after only serving 2 years of his sentence. And I don't know, I could be wrong, but I didn't think the feds did parole. I thought that if you were sentenced to federal time, you was doing every minute. But you know, that could be new, I could be wrong. I don't know. It don't matter. Anyways, once he was released, he moved to Overton, Nevada to be closer to his parents. And he initially tried to find his footing back in Nevada by working as a farmhand on Warm Springs Ranch. You know, the one where he would later be captured near. Yeah, that ranch. But for whatever reason, he just couldn't shake his bad habits and get rid of his poor decision making. Because the barber who used to cut his hair said that he was a reckless kid and he would drive through the town real fast. And he would even tell people that he was going to rob a local business. But nobody really took him seriously. Nobody believed what he was saying until he robbed the bank and murdered 3 people. And it would come out later that the bank wasn't even his first choice to rob that day. It said that he went to a local drugstore and a bait shop with all intentions to rob them. But for whatever reason, he decided to abort mission and rob the bank instead. So yeah, once Terry was apprehended after the robbery, he went straight to jail. Do not pass go, do not collect $200. Give me the $35,000 that you just took from them, as a matter of fact. Anyways, instead of taking this to trial, Terry ended up pleading guilty to 3 counts of murder, and he would subsequently be sentenced to 3 consecutive life sentences. But then, after he was sentenced to those 3 consecutive life sentences, he still had to face federal prosecution for the bank robbery, to which he was ultimately found guilty and was sentenced to an additional 50 years in the federal institution. But the 50-year sentence would not start until the 3 consecutive life sentences were complete. But shortly after being hauled off to prison to start his "you ain't never about to see life on the outside again" sentence, he decided that he wasn't feeling it. He was not feeling life imprisonment, and the man escaped. And when the people of Overton heard this news, they were not only upset, but they were shook. They were shocked and scared because they thought that maybe he broke out of prison to return back to Overton to wreak more havoc on the town. But luckily, shortly after his escape, he was recaptured and put right back into his prison cell, probably in solitary confinement. But even though Terry was locked away for good this time, the town of Overton was shattered. He essentially destroyed their sense of peace. He obliterated their carefree nature. The town itself and nobody in it was ever the same again. There was just so much grief and sadness there now. And in the wake of losing both of their spouses, Vera's husband Bud and Larry's wife Donna would end up marrying each other and raising their kids together. And being that Overton is such a small town, it's not uncommon for people from the victims' families and people from Terry's family to run into each other. And being that one of your family members killed one of our family members, seeing each other in public could turn into a bad situation. But Larry's son wanted it to be clear that he or none of his family feels any animosity, any disdain, or any hate for Terry's family. Everything that they feel is towards Terry himself. He said that Terry's family has suffered just as theirs did, especially Terry's dad, Ernest. And I'm sorry, I think I called him Edgar in the beginning. Terry's dad's name is Ernest. But yeah, he said that the Staley family held no hate in their heart for the Congers. And this was made abundantly clear when one day, years after the murders, Ernest was sitting in a booth at a place called the Pepper Mill, and he was just sad and damn near crying, looking just distraught, distressed, and just out of it, when a waitress came over and asked him what was wrong. And he proceeded to tell her about the crimes that his son had committed and how he was just devastated and just really could not believe that his son had taken the lives of 3 people and destroyed 3 families essentially. And he wasn't really expecting much out of this when he told her. He was just getting it off his chest since she asked. And in return, he received an embrace. The waitress hugged him and she let him know that she understood his pain because one of the people who his son Terry had murdered was her father, Larry. And in a way, their families will always be connected, especially since down the line and over the years, there will be youngins who were born who were related to both the victims and Terry. And while lots of time has passed and the families now share descendants, the town has never forgotten what happened on that day in August. But in 1999, they were able to put a little piece of that chapter of their history behind them when Terry Conger died at the age of 55 due to complications of diabetes. But yeah, y'all, that is all I have for today's case. Thank you all so very much for watching. Don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe, and I will see you all in the next one. Because nothing ever changes. I think I'm going to stay right here tonight because that could be dangerous. Oh. All right, y'all. So today we're jumping right into the case. And if you've been with the... Or do y'all say Nevada? And I'm talking about... States that the population of this town is roughly 3,675. 65. No. Ooh, that's too many people. And in 1967, when this case takes... No. I don't know why every time I scratch my neck, I feel like a crackhead. Is that stereotyping? I don't know. And they were finally able to catch him near Warm River. No. And they was finally able to catch him near Warsaw. And they were finally. They was in Mopa, Nevada. So Terry Conger was born on January 3rd, 1944 in Mopa Valley. No, not in Mopa Valley. Damn, girl. And Edith, Doris. Edgar, who is Edith is not his mama. And for his thievery, he would end up being sentenced to 6 years at the Federal Correctional. And I'm not really sure what happened, and I really don't know why. Oh, yes, I do. But this 50-year sentence would Vera's husband, Bud, and Lara's wife, Lara, due to complications of diabetes.